I'm pleased to move to the next speaker, my colleague Daniele Rizzi from Eurostat, that is sharing one of the burden of INSPIRE, that is in particular the coordination of the implementation, and he will present toward the implementation of INSPIRE.
So thank you, Alessandro. Good morning, everybody. I will make a presentation which basically will be a sort of appetizer for you to choose among all the different sessions which will take place in the next 2 days and a half, the ones which can be more interesting for you for what concerns all the developments that have taken place and for INSPIRE in the last year. So first of all, where to start? This is a screenshot of the INSPIRE website that you all know, and here you can already see the progress of the implementation of INSPIRE. At least the progress in defining the legislative and non-legislative aspects of INSPIRE. First of all, we have since last year, since the INSPIRE conference 2009. Two new regulations have been formally adopted and published, so they entered formally into force. The first one concerning monitoring reporting, and the other one concerning the first set of network services on view and discovery. This is something so that entering into force, its legislation has a certain deadline to be implemented. I will come back shorter afterwards. Then we have a second point, which is what is now in the pipeline concerning the regulations to implement INSPIRE. Indeed, the two regulations are now at the status of draft, in the sense that the INSPIRE committee, the regulatory committee who provides a formal opinion on the proposal from the Commission, has provided opinions, and these were in both cases positive opinions. So we have two draft regulations, one concerning the famous Annex 1 data specifications, and the second one concerning another set of network services, transformation and download. For both of these, the text is there. They have still to go through a certain formal process, which includes the opinion of the Parliament and of the Council. But basically, we have two new pieces of legislation which should be adopted by the end of this year. And the text is already available, the official text, which means that you can already get ready and go through it. Third point. We move now to something which is non-binding legislation, but you know all that INSPIRE is based on implementing rules, basically Commission regulations, plus guidelines which accompany the regulations and explain more in detail how to implement the regulations, even if not being formally binding. And a certain number of guidelines have been issued. I won't mention all of them, some of them just later. Other point, of course, what is now being under development. This is probably one of the biggest words that we are addressing now. Certainly in terms of resources to be dedicated both from the Commission and from the community in terms of experts, and later on in terms of consultation process, the development of the specifications for Annex 2 and 3 data themes. Of course, there will be my colleagues later, which will explain much more in detail, but this is really a big issue, and at least 20 different working groups have already been set up and started to work at the beginning of this year. Something which is there, it is no more developing legislation or guidelines, but it is tools which are already available, certain number of things, a geoportal, a prototype geoportal, registries, metadata editors, or tools to validate the compliance, or at least the formal compliance with metadata, are there and available. And this is something which is already growing and is made progressively available to everybody. Final thing, not less important, but still, our conference. We are here in the Inspire conference to relate on all the progress. Now, to go back quickly to what the development of the legislative framework, 2 regulations has been adopted and entered into force, one in late 2009 and the other one beginning 2010. One concerns network services, so now there is a complete legislative framework concerning the first set of network services, the discovery and the view, accompanied by guidelines. A second piece of legislation, as I said, is the one which concerns the data sharing between member states and public community institutions and bodies. This maybe is relatively less interesting to the majority of the community, which is not interested in looking which way the European Commission and the other institutions are acquiring data. But this has also generated some non-binding documents which are also useful for the establishment of a spatial data infrastructure as such, especially with regard to data sharing. A few words on the 2 meetings of the formal Inspire Committee, which took place one end of December last year and the other one less than 1 week ago. The 5th committee, as I said, provided 2 positive opinions to draft Commission regulations, which are now available, even if not yet adopted. Another committee meeting, which took place last week, voted or provided at unanimity a positive opinion to a Commission regulation on code lists, which complements the first regulation on data themes. This is something which, in a way, shows also the dynamics of the legislative process. A proper regulation on code lists was not really foreseen from the very beginning. This is in a way the result of a certain discussion that the Commission has had with the committee, and it has been at the end agreed that it was necessary to complement the first regulation on data specification with something fixing in a regulation also code list. This is also something that in detail will be explained later in other presentation, but this is, I think it's important to underline how the process also, a process which is quite rigid in terms of rules and of boundary condition to respect, because of course all these regulations are directly coming from a need expressed in the directive. There is no way of adopting regulation for which there is not yet a hook in the Inspire directive, but still there is a certain margin to decide what is needed to be defined as a regulation with certain advantages and disadvantages, and what can be more defined as a non-binding guideline. The Inspire roadmap. So this is not to be read, not meant to be read, of course. It is meant basically to see that concerning the adoption and the definition of the more legislative framework, we are relatively well advanced because we are now there, you see. So if we take into account all the process which started some years ago, we are slowly but actively completing all the duties. This, of course, is not meaning that everything is done, but concerning the initial phase of the implementation of Inspire in terms of regulations, we are now reaching a good point. And we have a certain now critical mass of regulations that need to be adopted and create a certain good framework. What happens in member